Hey there, everyone. I wanted to make I know you've already seen, or hopefully you have seen the first video that I made about digital learning expectations. If you have not, please go back and watch that one first. Let me go ahead and apologize for the video quality in that particular video. As you can see, hopefully I've fixed that now and have a better camera, so this looks a lot better. I wanted to make a second or follow up rather to that first video about expectations for digital learning, because there were a few things I noticed as the week has gone on that I did not address in that, or there are things that I maybe didn't have the answers to yet, or I was unsure about at that time, and so I didn't address them. So I wanted to go ahead and address some of those things now before we get started. So again, make sure you've watched the first video. In fact, I will link that in the description box down below. It is in Google Classroom in the same post as this one ought to be, but it will be linked below for your convenience. So please refer to that one first because it goes over some important things. So let me start. First, let me talk about one thing I'm going to do to kind of help out and keep us organized. I'm going to be posting in Google Classroom each week. In addition to your daily assignments, I will post a weekly overview. Okay, so in Google Classroom, I'll post this weekly overview. It will be posted by Friday of each week, and it's for the next week. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is the one, and it's should be posted in Google Classroom now. It looks like this. Here's your overview for the first week of school, the 17th through the 21st. Please pay attention to the due dates, which are listed in the middle. It gives, of course, the date in which, and this is what will show up in Google Classroom. So it tells you what notes, which means the video PowerPoints that you're going to need to watch, that will be listed there. So you can see today you're expected to watch the remote learning expectations, which some of you probably did prior to Monday. There's the assignment that you'll have to do. It's just listed here, the due date for it, and any other information. For example, on Monday, your summer assignment is due, the days that we have Zoom office hours going on, and then looking ahead to the next week. This is where I'll post anything that's coming up the following week so that you're not surprised by something on Monday. For example, our first test is actually going to be in the second week of school. So that way you would know that and it wouldn't be surprised by that on Monday. I'll talk more about the test in just a moment, and my phone is ringing. So I am going to pause this really quick and answer the phone. Okay, I'm back. Here we are. Okay, so where was I? Yes, so what this is, and there's no active links in here. This is just an overview of what's going on so you can kind of know what to expect each day, so it's not a big surprise as far as what's coming. That might help you budget your time a little bit better, all that kind of stuff. Now, even though I'm putting this out to you at the end of the week, not all of the things listed here are available yet. So videos may be posted because I tend to run ahead on those, and as you may have noticed, those are just on YouTube. But as far as assignments and things, these things are not going to go up until that day. So although you know right now that you have the Columbian Exchange math activity coming up on Wednesday, that won't show up in Google Classroom for you to do until Wednesday morning. But this way you just kind of know ahead of time what is coming up. So none of these are active links. Like I said, it is just an overview so you can know what to expect, and you can maybe use as perhaps like a checklist kind of a thing. As far as making sure you have knocked off everything and have done everything that you are supposed to do. Pay attention to the due dates. I have decided that my standard is going to be 3 days from the time that it was assigned. So that's why you notice on your overview that for the first day, that Monday, it's assigned Monday, it's due by Wednesday. Now, does that mean it ought to take you 3 days to do it? Absolutely not. The only reason I'm making those due dates at least 3 days later is I'm trying to allow I know there's some people that have limited access to these things. Either there's, one device that everyone in the home is trying to use, or you're going to have to go to one of those Wi-Fi hotspots, or someone else's house, a grandparent's house, or someone to utilize the internet. So that's why that is. That does not mean this is going to take you 3 days. I would expect, and my recommendation was if, as long as you are able, if this thing is assigned on Monday, do it on Monday and get it completed and turned in by Monday. Same thing for Tuesday and Wednesday. None of these things are things that should take you multiple days. And if they are, I've given you multiple days to do it. I give you a little bit longer, or it's listed as your assignment for more than one day. So again, that's the reason some of these things shouldn't take you but 5 minutes. There will a couple of times a week be something that's basically like just one question or something really, really simple and easy. Again, the standard's gonna be 3 days, not because it ought to take you 3 days. I'm just trying to provide some flexibility for everyone, because I know not everybody's situation is different. If there's something going on that means that that's not going to be enough for that particular assignment, communicate. Please communicate. I'll go over that again here in just a moment, reminding you to make sure you are communicating. So don't waste to the last minute. Do not look at that Wednesday due date and go, okay, I'm not going to touch it to Wednesday, because by then you're already behind. You need to be doing stuff every day. Like I said, that is just to kind of compensate for those that may not be able to get it done by then. Okay, let's talk about tests. Test was mentioned, of course, over here. You will have tests for each chapter. In the spring, we weren't allowed to give tests. This time we are. So you will have tests that will count for major grades. Those major grades count for 50% of your overall grades. Those will come in quickly because of the block schedule. And y'all have never been on block schedule before as 10th graders. None of our students here have been on traditional block that we're on now. Everybody's been on the modified. And one of the characteristics of that, I don't know if it's good or bad, it just depends on your view of it. Tests come quick, on a modified block or a period schedule. A test in my class would probably come about every 2.5 weeks. On a block schedule, it's about once a week, because we get through chapters very quickly and we test on them. So don't be alarmed and fully expect to be testing often, because that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to the block schedule. Now, as far as how I'm going to test with this digital platform, and what that's going to mean for you. Some of that I'm still working out, but what I can tell you is they will be more open-ended discussion kind of questions, short essay kind of things, as opposed to multiple choice. If we were in the classroom, your test would be a combination of multiple choice and short answer discussion kind of stuff, with the multiple choice counting for more. But I won't be doing multiple choice tests as long as we are virtual, because it's too easy for you to cheat. So it will be all, like I said, short answer, that kind of a thing, open-ended kind of stuff. It will most likely be done in Google Forms. That's probably the platform I'm going to use. It will probably come to you through an email, because I'm working on, I haven't finalized it yet, but I'm working on applications that will allow that Google form to be timed, so that you will only have, and it will depend on how many questions I put in. I'm not going to make it super lengthy, but let's just say you have an hour. Once you open up that Google form, you have an hour, or you have 45 minutes, and there will actually be a timer on it, most likely, that will count down. I wish that wasn't there, but most of the applications that I'm researching right now have that. So you would not be able to work on it for days and days and days. You can prepare, but once you sit down, you will have to actually take the test. You will have a limited amount of time in order to submit your responses. Now, since we have this whole virtual situation, that does mean that technically your tests are open notes and all of that, because I can't stop you from looking at those things. However, you need to understand that the way those questions are going to be written, and this would be the case even if we were in the room. Just keep in mind, this is just the nature of honors and AP and all that stuff. They will be more analytical kinds of questions, to where just looking in your notes to copy down some facts won't be enough. You will have to show analyzation. You will have to show synthesis. You will have to show that you really understand it. Just copying down the facts won't cut it. You won't get full credit for that. They are also going to be worded and created and designed in such a way that it's going to be obvious to me if you copy. It will be obvious to me if you copy another student's work, if y'all are sharing answers, if y'all are conferencing with each other and collaborating with each other as you test. It will be obvious to me if you Googled something. It will be obvious to me if you got it on a website. I can tell all those things pretty well anyway. So you need to make sure that you are doing your own work. And while, again, you will be able to use notes, just realize that that won't be enough. It's not going to be define this term or tell me who this person was. Refer back to the first video that I put out back in May. I'll also link that one below, about the kinds of questions you can expect to see. That's the kind of stuff I'm going to use for testing. So that's what I mean by, don't just assume you're going to be able to Google everything, because I'll know. One, it won't be enough, and I'll be able to tell anyway. So, and you won't get credit for that. So that's the plan there. Hopefully there'll be more information. I'm setting Thursday as kind of a deadline for myself to have things finalized as far as what that's going to look like. Again, probably through Google Forms. Hopefully it will be timed and open-ended kind of stuff where you're going to have to demonstrate true understanding, not just that you can copy down something out of the notes and that kind of thing. So that's what I can tell you right now about tests. Remind. Make sure you're signed up on Remind. But let me talk for a minute about how I use Remind, what I use it for, what I don't use it for. Do not expect Remind messages about everything. I am not going to send a remind every day saying, oh, don't forget to turn in your your math activity. Don't forget to turn in your exit slip. Don't forget to watch this. I'm not going to do that every single day. I'm not going to do that about every assignment. That's why you have Google Classroom. That's why you have the overview. Do not expect text messages from me about all that kind of stuff. I'll be using Remind when there's a major change, if there is an update, if there is an issue that we need to address. Hey, I heard this link's not working, but it's working now. That kind of stuff. And that's the same as it would be if we were in the classroom. I didn't even use Remind up until the shutdown happened for that reason, because I don't use it to remind you daily about stuff, because I do that in other ways. So just don't expect Remind messages a ton. Do not expect to get them for every single assignment, and that will be the case whether we are virtual or whether we are in school. I can go sometimes weeks without sending out a Remind messages. I probably won't do that right now, just so we can have at least some kind of connection, but just don't expect little reminders about every single thing, because it won't happen. Okay, let me talk about notes, because this is a little bit different. I've thought through this part a little bit more and kind of changed slightly what I want to do. I've told you how you will learn to take your own notes in this class eventually. I usually do not use any kind of note-taking guides. I certainly don't do fill in the blanks. I don't give you anything. You take notes yourself. Typically, though, I'd be able to walk you through that process, the first week of school, of kind of what the expectations are and how you would be able to do that. Because we're not going to be in school right now. I mentioned, I think in the first video, that I would give you like an outline or a guide or something. What I've decided to do is, for the first chapter, I'm going to post full-blown outlines, everything. Okay, basically, I'm going to give you the notes for chapter 1. You're not going to actually have to take any notes for chapter 1. But part of what I want you to make sure you do with that is, as you watch those videos of me going through that PowerPoint, I want you to look at those notes that I provided for you. You can print them if you want, but you don't have to, and see how it lines up, and see how, okay, this is what's on the PowerPoint. This is what, if I was writing, what I should have filled in, so you kind of know what the expectation is. I'm going to do that for chapter 1 as we're still figuring things out. When we get to chapter 2, I'm going to do something similar, but I'm not going to fill it in totally. I'm going to fill in some things and give you some space to fill in stuff on your own. So we'll kind of build that up. By the time we get to chapter 4 and 5, which by that time we could be back in the building, I'm not real sure, I will no longer be posting anything for you, and you will have to do that on your own. Regardless, the notes, whether you take your own, whatever's happening, notes are something that are crucial. You absolutely have to have them, but I don't take them up and I don't grade them. So they are for you, but just realize that that is the way that you are going to get your information. That's what you're going to use to study. That's what you're going to use to do your work 99.9% of the time. So if you don't take good notes, or decide I don't need notes, and I know there's some of you out there that are like that, because there are every year, you are shortchanging yourself, and you're not going to be successful that way. So take some kind of notes, but I'm going to help you out there on that this first time particularly. So I will post everything you're going to need note-wise, but you need to still watch those videos and then go through and kind of figure out how it ought to look. So that's my plan with the notes. Okay, Zoom meetings, those office hours that were posted. Remember that they are optional. We are not requiring that. My plan is to use that time. It's about answering your questions. It's about going over something. Hey, I didn't understand this assignment, or will you explain this again? Or I'd like to know more about that. It is not a live teaching session. That's happening on the videos that I'm posting and the pre-recorded lessons that I'm posting. I also might suggest, this is something that I just honestly didn't think of in the first video. If you have an individual issue, like you're concerned about your grade, or you're wondering why you got this grade on that, you please email me that kind of stuff. Don't bring that stuff up in a Zoom meeting. For one thing, realize there's going to be other people there. So you may not want to be discussing your grade or something that's going on like that with other people. But secondly, just think of it as if we were in the classroom, you would probably come to me and ask me those kinds of questions on your own. You wouldn't raise your hand, or I hope you wouldn't, because I hate it when people do that. Raise your hand and say, why do I have this grade, or what happened here, or I don't understand why this is. If it's an individual issue that just concerns you about your grade or something along those lines, email me those concerns as opposed to bringing that up when we ought to be having class discussion. So that's what I wanted to say about that. One, for your own privacy, and also just because those are technical things that could be worked out another time. The Zoom meeting, in case you were wondering, you can come in and out of it. It is not you have to be there right at whatever y'all's time is, 2:30. If you show up at 2:45, I'll still be there. If you just had a quick question and then you're done, you want to leave after that, that's fine. Basically, I'm just going to be on there for that amount of time, waiting on people to come in with whatever it is that they need, whatever concerns that they have. So you don't have to be on there the whole time. You can leave whenever you get whatever it is that you need. Also, we're going to stick with Zoom for now because that's what I originally said. I may switch, or at least try Google Meet. I've used Google Meet maybe a few times, but since it's right there in Google Classroom, I'm wondering if that may actually be easier. So we might go to that eventually. So again, just keep yourself posted. Be watching and waiting and listening for things. And if I decide to change it, or at least just try out Google Meet, I will let you know. But make sure you are listening. Find no reminders. Communicate, communicate, communicate. As I said in that earlier video, saying that you didn't know and you weren't aware is no longer an excuse. If you didn't know and you weren't aware, it's because you're not checking remind messages, you're not checking email, you're not going into Google Classroom. If you're doing those things regularly like you're supposed to, you will know what's going on. If there's something going on that's preventing you from doing that, that is legitimate and serious, you need to let us know. So you need to be checking your email, school email, at least twice a day. I would check it in the morning. I would check it in the afternoon time. Check your remind messages. Like I said, I'm not going to send out a ton of those, but you do need to check them, and you need to make sure that the notifications for that are turned on so that you will see it. You need to check Google Classroom every single day. You need to, if you have some kind of an issue, you need to speak with me. There are multiple ways you can get in touch with me, and I will respond. Email me. You can send me a message on Remind. If none of those things are working, or you don't have internet access in the moment, call the front office and they will let me know that I either need to call you back, or they might even be able just to patch you through to my room. I'm not sure, but at least do that. So please communicate. Let me know what's going on with you. Don't just disappear for 3 weeks or a week or whenever. And then, we're trying to catch up and trying to figure out what's going on. So we're going to make it. It's going to be fine. There's going to be kinks. There's going to be bumps in the road. There are going to be things that won't work right. There are going to be changes made. I can guarantee you with that. So again, listen, be flexible, be patient. I will try to be flexible and patient as best I can as well, while still demanding that you be responsible and be accountable for what's going on here. And I sincerely hope we're able to meet each other in person soon. But it is what it is, and we're just going to do the very best that we can with it. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.